Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we've got some crucial news you don't want to miss. Let's dive right into the top financial headlines and break down what's happening. As we kick off the new week, let's take a look at 4 major economic events to keep an eye on in the coming days. First up, Wednesday is New Year's Day, and most of the major global financial markets will be closed. Now, why is New Year's Day an important event to watch? Well, for institutional investors and big banks around the world, it's a key date. They have to consider the day before and after New Year's as part of their trading strategies. These strategies can be pretty different because of things like tax planning and market mechanics around the year-end transition. And, of course, it's a time for people all over the world to celebrate the new year, which makes it a special occasion globally. Second, on Thursday, January 2nd, US time, we'll see the release of manufacturing PMIs from the Eurozone, the UK, and the US. These reports are crucial for understanding the economic health of the major economies in January. The PMI is a leading indicator, which means it helps us get a sense of where things are headed in terms of economic growth or contraction. Third, on Saturday, January 4th, Federal Reserve official James Bullard will give a public speech. This is one of those rare end-of-year, start-of-year talks from Fed officials, so it's definitely one to watch. Market watchers are hoping he'll provide some forward-looking guidance for the Fed's upcoming January meeting on interest rates. Now, of course, Bullard's comments alone won't set policy, but when other Fed officials are quiet, his perspective is especially valuable. Fourth, the international oil market is another big one to follow. Last week, OPEC agreed to extend its production cuts in an effort to prop up oil prices. With global demand taking a hit, OPEC is trying to balance the supply side to maintain price levels. But recently, Fed and ECB officials have been leaning toward more hawkish stances. For example, Jerome Powell said there's not as much likelihood of rate cuts in 2025 as Wall Street might expect, and the ECB made it clear that the next rate cut could be further off than people think. These hawkish signals can strengthen the US dollar, which, in turn, puts pressure on oil prices and could undermine OPEC's efforts to boost them. So, these are the key events you should be watching out for over the next week. It's a mix of market-moving economic reports, central bank speeches, and global commodity trends that could shape the financial landscape in the coming months. Next, let's dive into 2 recent major air disasters that have been in the headlines. First, the tragic crash in South Korea. According to Bloomberg, this is now the deadliest airline disaster in South Korea's history, with 179 lives lost. Investigators are focusing on 2 main factors, a bird strike and a critical landing gear malfunction that occurred during the final moments of the flight. The Boeing 737-800, operated by Jeju Air, was carrying 181 passengers. Sadly, only 2 crew members survived. The plane crashed at Jeju International Airport on Sunday morning, skidding along the runway before smashing into a wall and exploding into a fireball. Initial reports suggest that the pilot, who was highly experienced with nearly 7,000 hours of flight time, made an emergency distress call just minutes after the bird strike warning. After his first failed landing attempt, he tried to pull up and make a second approach, but the plane's landing gear wasn't deployed. So, what do experts think happened? Since it happened during the day and the landing process was clearly documented by surveillance footage and even some passenger videos, many analysts believe that the bird strike, while concerning, wasn't the major issue. A pilot with 7,000 hours of experience should be able to handle such a situation. The real problem seems to be the landing gear not deploying. Now, it's not uncommon for planes to land safely even without functioning landing gear. In fact, one of the most famous cases is from 2009 when a US Airways flight couldn't lower its landing gear but made an emergency landing in the Hudson River, later inspiring a Hollywood movie. There are also examples where ground crews are ready with firefighting equipment and other resources to handle a gear failure. But in this case, Jeju Air didn't have any of that prep in place, and the plane was forced to skid along the runway. The big question is, did the pilot know the landing gear wasn't down? Some experts think that in the chaos following the bird strike, the pilot might not have noticed. If he had, there were options to fix the problem, like climbing to a higher altitude so gravity could potentially release the gear. But then again, there's speculation that the pilot may have been overconfident, thinking the plane could slide along the ground and still make it. This is still under investigation. Second, another devastating crash occurred recently when a passenger flight from Azerbaijan was shot down by Russia's air defense system. The latest development in this tragedy is that Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev has now spoken out. Following the incident, an Azerbaijani government-backed news outlet immediately blamed Russia for the downing of the flight. In response, Russian President Vladimir Putin apologized for the plane's crash within Russian airspace but didn't acknowledge the shooting. Instead, he pointed fingers at Ukraine, suggesting the situation was caused by the ongoing conflict with Ukraine. Today, President Aliyev offered his own comments, saying that while Russia accidentally shot down the plane, they're not suggesting Russia did it on purpose. He also urged Russia to provide compensation. This comment from Aliyev is notable because it seems like he's trying to smooth things over with Putin, aligning with his earlier statement. This move suggests that political leaders, when faced with such tragic events, often prioritize their own political relationships and interests, especially in a sensitive situation like this one. So, while the investigation into both disasters continues, the political dynamics at play are just as important as the technical investigations into the crashes themselves. Next up is the third story to share today. Trump sides with Musk in H-1B visa dispute, a look at the controversy. Background and recent developments. Bloomberg recently reported on Donald Trump's intervention in the ongoing dispute over H-1B work visas, siding with Elon Musk in a clash that has drawn significant attention. The issue revolves around whether to restrict these visas, which allow foreign professionals to work in the United States, especially in technology sectors. Previously, tensions flared over Christmas between Musk and conservative Republican factions led by figures like Steve Bannon. The conservative bloc advocates for a significant reduction in H-1B visas, arguing that such restrictions would create more job opportunities for American workers. Musk, on the other hand, contends that the U.S. technology industry depends heavily on highly skilled foreign talent, making these visas essential. Bannon's criticism and Musk's response. Bannon criticized Musk, claiming he is not a true supporter of this Make America Great Again (MAGA) agenda, despite his financial contributions to Trump's political campaigns. Musk fired back, saying he would go all in to counter any attacks on his stance, even if it meant clashing directly with Trump. The conservative faction also accused Musk of undermining U.S. interests, alleging that his efforts to alter budgetary priorities effectively weakened legislation targeting Chinese investments. Musk dismissed these allegations sarcastically, pointing out the improbability of any country being able to buy someone with his immense wealth. Trump's position. Amid the escalating debate, Trump broke his silence after 3 days, publicly supporting the H-1B program. "I've always been a believer in H-1B visas. It's a great program," Trump declared, emphasizing the persistent shortage of exceptional engineering talent in the U.S. This statement was widely interpreted as Trump aligning with Musk against the conservative opposition. Bloomberg's analysis. Bloomberg offered 2 key takeaways from Trump's intervention. 1. Strengthening ties with Musk. Trump's remarks appear to solidify his alliance with Musk, who has been a significant contributor to Trump's presidential campaign. 2. Policy ambiguity. Trump's history suggests he is not fully committed to Musk's perspective. During his first term, Trump initiated restrictions on several visa programs, including H-1B, citing the need to protect American workers. Bloomberg also highlighted Trump's past statements advocating for granting green cards to graduates of U.S. colleges, including those from community colleges, as part of a broader approach to retaining talent. This seeming contradiction reflects Trump's flexibility on immigration policies, suggesting he may take a pragmatic approach to visa reforms in the future. What's next? While Trump's comments signal potential shifts in his visa policy stance, they do not resolve the underlying conflict. The rift between Musk and conservative factions appears to be deepening, setting the stage for further debates. Analysts predict this could become a significant and prolonged political battle, with implications for the tech industry and U.S. immigration policy. This evolving story underscores the complexities of balancing domestic job protections with the global competitiveness of American industries. Fourthly, Canadian ministers rush to mend fences with Trump's team at Mar-a-Lago. Lately, relations between Canada and the U.S. have been anything but smooth. Since Donald Trump's presidential win, his repeated threats towards Canada have gone beyond rhetoric, creating rare and serious tensions between the two neighbors. The issues aren't just about trade imbalances or border management, they're tangled up with Canada's own political struggles, making the situation all the more chaotic. Ministers on a mission in Florida. According to Bloomberg, two top Canadian ministers, Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Foreign Minister Mélanie Joly, flew to Florida to meet with Trump's transition team. Their goal? Convince them that Canada's northern border is secure and that there's no need for tariffs. The two ministers met with Howard Lutnick, Trump's pick for Commerce Secretary, and Doug Burgum, his Interior Secretary nominee. This visit comes just weeks after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau himself made a trip to Mar-a-Lago, marking the second time in a month that Canada has sent high-level representatives to Trump's Florida estate. A spokesperson for Lutnick described the meeting as positive and productive, with both sides reaffirming their commitment to strengthening border security and combating the opioid crisis caused by fentanyl. Canada's $1.3 billion border plan. To ease Trump's concerns, Canada unveiled a $1.3 billion CAD border security plan. This initiative includes deploying helicopters, drones, and mobile surveillance towers, along with ramping up measures to combat money laundering. The big question is whether Trump will buy into Canada's plan or push for even more concessions. For now, it's anyone's guess. Trudeau's political woes. Adding to the drama, Bloomberg pointed out that Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been notably absent from the public eye since Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland resigned. Word on the street is that Trudeau is using the holiday break to reconsider his political future. So, while tensions between the US and Canada are making headlines, it seems the bigger story might be Trudeau's own political troubles. Still, many believe the two countries will find a way to work through this latest round of disputes. Finally, let's focus on big companies pulling back from DEI initiatives. The Wall Street Journal reports today that some major US companies, like Ford and Walmart, are starting to backtrack on their diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) efforts. This shift is largely due to the pressure they're anticipating under the next Trump administration. If you're not familiar with DEI, it refers to workplace policies that aim to promote diversity, fairness, and inclusion. But under these policies, we've seen some pretty strange things happening in corporate environments. So, why are big companies suddenly backing out of DEI initiatives? It's not because they've had a change of heart or woke up to the need for change, it's because conservative forces are urging businesses to step away from these policies. The conservative pushback. Mike Davis, a close advisor to Trump and head of the conservative legal group Article 3 Project, says that pendulum is swinging back with a vengeance against DEI. He and other conservative figures believe there's still a lot of work to do before DEI is fully eliminated from society. In Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, WILL, is actively suing companies over DEI policies. They point to over 60 federal programs ripe for legal challenges, including those that support minority farmers and provide assistance to minority-owned law firms. The 2023 Supreme Court decision. The push to dismantle DEI gained steam after the Supreme Court overturned affirmative action in college admissions in 2023. This ruling sparked a wave of attacks on DEI policies in the workplace. Companies like Ford, UBS, and Warner have all recently made moves to scale back their diversity efforts. Ford, for instance, stopped sharing workplace data with LGBTQ rights groups, while UBS stopped donating to women of color-led businesses. Meanwhile, Warner won't continue funding programs aimed at resolving racial disparities. A tough spot for Asian Americans. A key reason some people, especially in the Asian American community, might support these moves is the awkward position they've been put in under DEI policies. Many Asians don't get the same protection under DEI because they're not considered a protected minority group. Their skin tone isn't dark enough to qualify, but they're also not seen as part of the mainstream group, leaving them in a tough spot. A return to normal? From some perspectives, this could be seen as a return to a more balanced, normal approach to hiring and workplace policies, where merit and skill take center stage, not quotas or identity politics. Of course, progressive organizations will likely push back, possibly ramping up efforts to defend DEI and its continued role in workplaces. So, this debate is far from over, and it's worth watching how it unfolds. Can Trump's administration really end DEI programs across the board? Time will tell. That's all for today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more updates. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.